Hello and welcome to this social work in lecture. In this lecture, we are going to take a journey through time to explore the history of social work in the United Kingdom. It is a fascinating story that takes us from the early days of basic charity to the highly skilled professional practice we see today. Let us begin by looking back to the year 1601. This date is very important because it marks the creation of the Elizabethan Poor Laws. Before this time, there was no organized system to help the needy, but this act changed everything by making individual parishes responsible for their own poor people. This was a major moment because it laid the very first foundations for state intervention in welfare, meaning the local government officially stepped in to help. At that time, society had a specific way of categorizing people who needed help. They established a clear distinction between two groups. First, there were the deserving poor, which included the elderly and the sick who were physically unable to work. Second, there were the undeserving poor, which referred to people who were able-bodied but still unemployed. To pay for this assistance, the money was collected from local ratepayers, which was the beginning of a tax-funded welfare system. Now let us move forward in history to the 19th century. By the year 1834, the cost of looking after the poor had risen significantly. In response to these rising costs, the government passed the Poor Law Amendment Act of 1834. The goal of this act was to deter or stop people from seeking relief unless they were absolutely desperate. The symbol of this era became the workhouse. Conditions inside the workhouse were made deliberately harsh and difficult. This was known as the punitive approach because it punished people for being poor to ensure that only the truly desperate would apply for help. However, this harsh treatment highlighted the desperate need for a more compassionate way to bring about reform. As the 19th century continued, we saw the growth of philanthropy and a change in how charity was organized. In the year 1869, the Charity Organization Society was founded. This society was created to coordinate charitable efforts and to stop what they called indiscriminate almsgiving, which meant giving money away without checking if it was truly needed. A key figure during this time was a woman named Octavia Hill. She believed in something called scientific charity. She trained volunteers to visit the poor in their homes, emphasizing personal responsibility and moral support over just giving financial aid. This approach of visiting families and assessing their needs laid the groundwork for modern social casework, which is still used today. Next, let us discuss a movement that took a very different approach called the settlement movement. In the year 1884, Toynbee Hall was founded by Samuel and Henrietta Barnett in the East End of London. The idea here was very special because university students actually went to live together amongst the poor. Their goal was to bridge the class divide, offer education, and conduct social research. Unlike the Charity Organization Society, which focused on the individual character of the poor, the settlement movement looked at the structural causes of poverty. This way of thinking was very influential, and it shaped the minds of future Labour politicians like Clement Attlee. Now let us understand how social work began to rise as a recognized profession. In the year 1895, Mary Stuart became the first Lady Almoner at the Royal Free Hospital. Her role was originally to assess the ability of patients to pay for their medical care, but it soon evolved into supporting their social needs as well. By the early 1900s, the London School of Economics began offering social work training. This was a crucial step because it marked the shift from well-meaning amateurism to a qualified profession where people were trained to help. Let us move forward to a significant turning point in history, which is the creation of the welfare state in the year 1948. A few years earlier, in 1940, Sir William Beveridge wrote a famous report. The Beveridge Report identified 5 giants that needed to be slain to improve society. These giants were want, disease, ignorance, squalor, and idleness. Following this report in 1948, the National Assistance Act formally abolished the old Poor Laws, and the Children Act of 1948 established children's departments. This meant that care shifted definitively from being just charity to becoming a statutory right where the state provided a safety net for all citizens. As we progress, let us look at the Seebohm Report of 1968. Before this time, social services were fragmented, meaning they were split up into separate departments for children mental health and welfare. The Seebohm Report recommended unification. It suggested creating single social services departments in each local authority. The aim was a policy known as One Door. This meant creating a community-based and family-oriented service where citizens could access all forms of social support through one single agency, making it much easier to get help. Now let us take a moment to honor some notable pioneers who shaped this field. We have already mentioned Clement Attlee. Before he became Prime Minister, he was a social worker in East London, and his experiences in the slums influenced the creation of the welfare state. Another giant in social work education was Eileen Youngersband. Her report in 1959 revolutionized training and standards for social workers, ensuring they were better prepared for their roles. We must also mention legislative reform, like the Children Act of 1989. This act remains a landmark today because it balances the need for child protection with the rights of parents and families. Finally, let us discuss modern regulation and identity in the profession. In the year 2003, the social work qualification became a degree. This raised the academic standing of the profession significantly. There has also been a strong focus on registration and the protection of the title social worker. Over the years, the regulators have evolved from the General Social Care Council to the Health and Care Professions Council, and finally to Social Work England. Social Work England was established in 2019 as the bespoke specialist regulator to set standards for education and practice. Today's social work in the United Kingdom continues to evolve. It faces new challenges regarding funding and demographics, but the profession remains committed to its core values of social justice, human rights, and empowerment. Thank you for listening to this social work in lecture on the story of how social work has grown to become the vital service it is today.